Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of On the Couch. I say good morning, but good evening or good afternoon if you are anywhere else in the world. Creatives, as you know by now, is a networking group for creative professionals, and we aim to help you grow and develop your creative business. This is On the Couch. Julie, who have we got today?
Hi, good morning, evening, afternoon. On the couch today, we have Dominique Unsworth of Resource Productions, located in Slough in Berkshire in the UK, which seems to be becoming the epicenter of the UK film industry. Hi, Dom. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi there. Nice to be here.
Great. Well, we've got a full agenda with you. You're such a productive person. Dom is a film producer, having made more than 50 short films and a feature-length film, which we will talk about a bit later. And you're also a trainer and a supporter. You've supported hundreds of underrepresented artists and filmmakers to secure work in the creative industries through Resource Productions. So can you tell us what Resource Productions is all about and what exactly you do?
Yeah, sure. It can be a bit confusing because obviously we sound like a production company, and we are, but we're actually what's called a CIC, a community interest company. So we're a not-for-profit within the charitable sector. And there's three things that we do. And the first thing is outreach and engagement. And that is looking for talent in places that people wouldn't normally look within the creative industries. So trying to find people from underrepresented backgrounds, localities, communities, experiences, all different abilities that wouldn't traditionally maybe think of a career in the creative industry. So that involves going and doing lots of outreach and engagement with schools, community groups, faith groups, specialist groups, disability organisations, all kinds of different groups to reach those underrepresented individuals who never thought of a career in this sector. And that's the first thing we do, which I'm really passionate about. And that's where we started, in a youth centre in the community in Slough over 23 years ago. So from that, we then discovered lots of talent, which is great. So you find all these people. And then the second thing we do is training and development. So it's really important that once we find people who may have an interest, a skill, a talent, you know, either personally as an amateur, just to develop themselves, or professionally to go into the film and TV industry or the broader creative and arts, then we need to be able to support them with training and personal development and professional development of their projects. So that might be supporting them with one-to-one support through our Creative Collective programme, supported by the Arts Council, or it might be helping them to develop a script idea to pitch to someone like the BFI, the British Film Institute, and help them get that commission from maybe BBC or Channel 4. So that's the second thing, training and development. And the third thing is production. So we found that obviously the biggest barrier to getting into the film and TV industry is getting a credit. Lots of people say, I can't get any experience because I haven't got any experience. No one will give me a job because I haven't done it before. So what we decided to do was make sure pretty early on we started making content. And so those projects that we've supported, those individuals that we've supported through outreach, engagement, training and development, we then help them secure commissions from the likes of maybe Channel 4 Random Acts. We're doing a few of those short form pieces at the moment, or BBC New Creatives was another one we were heavily involved with. But we also work with funders and crowdfunding to try and raise money to make lots of short films. So that's the third thing we do, which is production. And under that comes the Berkshire Film Office. So Berkshire Film Office is a new project that we've set up that basically enables us to service the location needs of international and local productions coming into the Berkshire area. And that helps us make connections with the industry and find job opportunities for local people as well.
Fantastic.
So how do people contact you to submit their film and TV ideas?
So we don't actively promote or encourage people to do that, because as you can imagine, particularly during COVID and lockdown, we had literally hundreds of people contacting us with lots of great and amazing ideas, but we are a small team and we don't have any core funding. So we have to be kind of quite specific about the way people can send ideas to us, because we don't have money to make films. Just to be really clear, we don't have loads of money sitting anywhere to make these films. So our process consists of anyone who's 19 plus can join our Creative Collective, which is essentially you fill in a very long online form, lots of personal questions in there. So be prepared if you want to kind of register and benefit from some potential free support, then we will ask you to fill in this long form on our website under the training section of resourceproductions.co.uk. And then once you're registered, we'll reach out to you, arrange a one-to-one with a member of our team. And then if you have an idea, we'll just check that we've got enough information in that proposal, whether it's, you know, a synopsis or a whole script or a storyboard, or, you know, some people aren't great at writing. It might be they've done it visually, or they have a little voice note that they want to send. Then we'll accept that submission as part of your Creative Collective membership. And it will go through our project review group, which is not just for films and TV shows, it's for any artistic or creative ideas. It could be, you know, anything ranging from animation to a dance piece to a photography exhibition. Any ideas can be sent in through that project review process. And then about every 2 months, all of those projects are reviewed by a mix of internal and external artists and filmmakers, who then give feedback to each of those projects. If during that process there's a project where we think either we can support it through an existing funder that we have on board, or that we could pitch it to one of our partners or a potential commissioner, then we will flag during that project submission process that we would love to develop this further with you. And now there's an added layer to that. So if it's a long form piece, if it's an actual feature film or TV show, then Resource Productions really only specialises in short film. But we're now working with partners, including the new company that I've set up called Parity Pictures, which then can look at proper development of long form projects, because we specialise at Resource Productions just in short form and smaller end projects.
Because it's quite time consuming, isn't it? And I mean, Julie and I made our first short film during lockdown, and 10 minutes of film, 4.5 months in post-production, you know, and that was quick, you know. Feature films, you know, people have said to me, would you do a feature film? And I was like, well, yeah, I would, but I need, as you say, you know, to find the right people who can partner and support it, because I can't take the amount of time out of my business that it would take me, the years to put it together. You know, but I think that what Resource Productions does is fantastic, because once you register on the Creatives Collective, you know, I'm registered on there. One of the things that I did for my film is I did all the sound design. I did not have a clue what I was doing, not a clue. I kind of learned it as I went along. And I'm actually booked on one of your free courses, which is an introduction to sound design. I was like, yeah, I really need that, because if I ever do this again, I'm going to need to properly know what I'm doing. So they do offer some fantastic resources. So if you are a creative, the details of the website are going along the bottom of the screen now and have been going across. So do go and check them out and register on the Creative Collective, and follow them on Eventbrite as well once you're registered, because that will come up with details and you'll get pinged of various things that are offered. And say all your courses really are free, aren't they, Dom? It's an amazing service you offer.
Yeah, I mean, it depends year to year. It depends on who comes along and funds us. But right now, all of our artistic courses are supported by the Arts Council England. So that funding runs out sort of at Christmas time. So we've got free activities at the moment running, I think, all the way up to March next year. And then we'll be seeking funding at sort of Christmas time to make sure we can keep them all free to everybody as well. Is this just for people in Berkshire? So now our courses are open to anyone. It's first come, first served usually, with the exception of we do prioritise Slough Borough Council and Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead residents. So the priority for us is those two boroughs and the residents aged 19 plus. For our younger age group, for those aged under 19, we do have like Film Club and Script Saturday, which are completely free and open to everyone, but you do need to be able to get to Slough for those youth activities. So yeah, there's no restriction, anyone can apply, but we do prioritise Slough and Royal Borough for a lot of our programmes. Well, let's talk about Slough becoming this epicentre of the UK film industry. Pinewood Studios is right here. Shepperton is down the road, they're extending. We've got Marlow coming up, Bray coming up, all these film production studios just popping up like mushrooms, and Slough seems to be the epicenter. Tell us more about what's happening on the ground. Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky in that we see it at two ends. So because we run the Berkshire Film Office, we get all of the inquiries that come in. to Berkshire for filming. So that could be anything from, you know, a news report all the way up to, you know, a big Disney production or Netflix production. So we see the level of inquiries has been doubling kind of month on month. Almost, you know, sort of during the pandemic, it started ramping up as soon as filming was able to happen. That all started happening. So our film office ends up getting loads and loads of inquiries now from really quite large productions coming over, particularly from the States. And that is because lots of studios are also being built in response to that demand from the States. So we have had loads of expansions and lots of planned expansions and buildings of different studios. So we're luckily, we've always been supported by Pinewood Studios, and Pinewood Studio Group is in charge of both Pinewood in Iver, just across the road in Buckinghamshire, literally 10 minutes from our office in Slough. And then in the other direction, Pinewood Studios Group sort of manages and runs Shepperton Studios as well, which is in the neighbouring borough of Spelthorne. So looking at particularly Shepperton and sort of Staines area as well. So we really try and engage with local young people, particularly in those areas, because Pinewood support our BFI Film Academy for 16 to 19-year-olds, which we run at both of those studios. So we're essentially trying to train up local young talent to find out about the jobs at those two studios, because both of those studios have expanded in recent years and have permissions or are seeking permissions to expand further, which is really great news because that's not new. They've always been there. They're a big part of the community, and they're also pretty accessible. So for Pinewood, for example, there is a shuttle bus that takes people in the morning from Slough Station to Pinewood if you get a job there. Lots of local young people, particularly in Slough, aren't aware of that, but if you stand outside Slough Station, you'll see the Pinewood bus come every so often in the morning and the evening. So it's a really important transport hub. And, you know, there's lots more to Slough as well, but the really good thing about being positioned here and our office being here is that we are really easy, you know, easy commutable distance for both Pinewood and Shepperton. And that's kind of the starting point with those historic studios. But recently we've been working really closely with Bray. We helped develop their sort of plan for skills and supporting the local community with their kind of development up there in Bray. And that's another historic site, you know, where all the Hammer Horrors were filmed. It's a beautiful studio. The developers there have maintained the historic buildings, and it's just amazing what's being done up there just in Royal Borough down the road from Slough as well. So you've got these three studios that are really historic and have been around a long time. And then sort of further along in East Berkshire, you've got places like Shinfield Studios, which is up at what was the Thames Valley Science Park, which is part of Reading University, still is part of Reading University. And we work really closely with them and with Wokingham Borough Council, and the councils, including Wokingham and Reading, are seeing this amazing kind of increase in interest in kind of productions coming into the area because the studios are growing and being built. And, you know, the kind of Winnersh Triangle area of kind of East Berkshire, Wokingham, Reading, that's a real growth centre for film internationally. You know, we've got amazing partners there, and, you know, studio facilities, not just the studios themselves, but there's a brilliant new company, for example, Pip Studios, which is based up in Winnersh over there, and they're an amazing like sound post-production company, which is on our doorstep, which is amazing. You know, you used to only get places like that in Soho, and now we've got them in East Berkshire. So it's all really exciting.
It is. We're the place to be now, aren't we, Dom?
Yeah, absolutely.
And are you seeing, I mean, one thing, conversation that we had a little while ago is and I'm so delighted that you encourage young talent to come up through the production ranks, because something that, you know, a lot of kids today want to be in front of the camera, and they want to be YouTube stars, and they want to be this and that. But there's a shortage of real production crew, like the technical assistants and the sound guys and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, movies don't get made unless you've got the technical people to do that stuff and make it look good. And, you know, you need the writers. Unless the actors have got the words to say, then you're not going to have a film. Are you seeing a good uptake of youth in those areas?
I think it's a really big challenge. It's the biggest challenge that the industry's got at the moment. That is that skills gap. And what we are always pushing here, and what we see there being a lot of problems with, is making sure that teachers, careers advisors, schools and colleges are aware of the craft skills that are needed. So, you know, there's skill shortage in all sectors at the moment, but we're particularly always trying to encourage carpenters and electricians, for example, to consider careers in film. And that's, you know, carpenters, electricians are needed generally in wider, you know, industry, but people might be really good in a college at electrics, and they've never been told that actually you could be doing a really interesting, fabulous, well-paid job in film and TV just down the road, with the same skills. And so there is work to be done there, and that's why we're constantly chipping away. We work closely with things like the Careers Enterprise Company, and also working with people like Screen Skills, who are our sector screen agency, and the BFI. But there's, you know, there's still loads to be done, because changing parents' perceptions of things like apprenticeships and things like technical and craft qualifications, people tend to think that if you go into these vocational areas, that actually you're going to earn less money. And in fact, the reverse is true. You know, we're crying out for people who can do practical art direction and construction elements of film, people who can do the carpentry and the electrical. They're going to be paid above the odds and have a very nice career, thank you very much, because we desperately need them. And then there's the other people, sort of like camera operators and lighting technicians, and all the underpinning services. So, for example, going back to, you know, Slough and the importance of Slough, just here in this tiny borough, which is like 3 miles by 7 miles, we've got 2 major suppliers of resources for filming globally. So we've got MBSE UK, which is the lighting hire company, massive, you know, depot here in Slough, and they constantly need staff. There's, you know, loads and loads of lights, cabling, everything they need to light a film. A great way to start in the industry, but they need to recruit local young people, local adults to go and work at their warehouses. It's really challenging to retain that talent, but it's a really good way into the industry that people might not be aware of. And we've got another company called Hireworks that does post-production hire, you know, hiring out the equipment you need to do editing. And a similar problem is, you know, where do people find out about those job roles? Because they're not writer, director, producer, they're not actor, but they're really, really exciting. And you get to go out and about and to visit sets and to work on these massive multi-million-pound productions from maybe a tiny little warehouse or a massive warehouse in Slough.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, that all the things to do with film that you don't necessarily think of, that you know, that dress the set, you know, the plant hire of like pot plants, or finding period teapot pieces, or crystal glasses, or the dressmakers and the costume designers and the makeup artists, and everything that makes the film work. You know, all this stuff has to come from somewhere, you know, and needs to be supplied to the film industry, you know. So there are, like you say, I get quite excited about, you know, there are a huge amount of roles that people can do to get into the film industry and have a really exciting life, you know, and as well, you know, so I think it's tremendous. And now you've been awarded an MBE fairly recently in 2020 for your services to apprenticeships. Tell us more about that. How many apprenticeships do you think you've facilitated over the last 20 years? Do you know?
Well, it's it's a weird one, that, because, you know, you get these letters and sometimes it's quite controversial to accept them, especially given my cultural heritage is, you know, kind of a post-colonial sort of country, which is, you know, I'm part Mauritian, and so taking something like an MBE is quite a big decision, but also it's a massive honor that someone even thought to nominate you. So I'm kind of taking it and utilizing it and trying to use it to our advantage to sort of highlight what we do, and particularly the importance of apprenticeships. So as a company, we're very tiny. I mean, we're not tiny, but there's like 17 of us at the moment. And so there's only about 7 to 9 full-time equivalent people working in resource productions. But if you think that any one time we will have at least one apprentice working with us since 2009, when we first started taking on apprentices, one apprentice in that team is quite a large number. And the most important thing for me is that the apprentice that we've taken on each year at least 50% of them have been retained in the company, and that's how we've grown. So one of our very first apprentices, Amanda, she is now a head of production. She's been with us 10 years. She's done an apprenticeship or two apprenticeships with us whilst working with us, and gone on to do a part-time degree whilst in post working with us full time. So that for me is a really important way of working with people who live locally, who may not traditionally want to go straight into uni, who don't really know when they're coming out of school aged 18 where they want to go. You know, Amanda didn't really think of film and TV. She was quite interested in marketing, and we snapped her up, and now she's producing content for Channel 4 and is working within the business. So what I ended up doing is volunteering as an ambassador for the Department for Education, and promoting to small businesses and small organisations like ours the importance of skills and of getting an apprentice in and looking for talent and skills in places where you wouldn't normally. People always think that apprenticeships are like some do-gooding thing, and you know, maybe they are, you know, ethically they're supporting local people potentially, but for me it's a really important way of diversifying and growing any business. And they're really misunderstood, and you know, the business case for having an apprentice, you know, the loyalty that you get from an apprentice that we train up in the organisation, who wants to stay, who wants to contribute, who's been there, who's understood what we do, and is then like an advocate for everything that you do going forwards, even when they leave. So you know, I think we've had about 10 apprentices in Resource Productions, and currently we've got Siobhan, who's just stepping up to project manager. She's just finishing her second apprenticeship with us. She's been with us many years and is using it as a way to develop as a manager. And then we've got Lily, who did an apprenticeship and is now doing a part-time degree, and she's our film officer, and she's managing a new apprentice, our current apprentice, Daisy. And then of course, Amanda, who's head of production. So, you know, sort of half of our full-time team really is developed through the apprenticeship route. So I think it's really worth anyone, you know, if you're a one-man band, one-woman band, if you're a big company, you can get an apprentice, and it's really cost efficient, and you've got a really loyal member of staff if it works out well and you train them well.
Yeah.
Apprenticeships were just the foundation of the economy from medieval days, and it seems to have sort of lost its popularity now. But you would think that any industry that involves some skill sets and experience, building up experience, that apprenticeships would be par for the course. So it's nice to hear that you're actually doing something like that. Do they run the apprenticeship in Pinewood and Shepperton and places like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pinewood's really great in that most film studios, the thing people don't understand in the UK is most film studios don't make films. So the apprenticeships that somewhere like Pinewood Studios would have tend to be around facilities, studio management, that kind of area, but they do run all of those. So whether it's, you know, it might be towards gardening and landscaping, it might be facilities management, but Pinewood has a large number of apprentices and is always an advocate for apprenticeships. So, and other studios that we've been working with to develop their skills plans, they have all been asked by the local councils, and all themselves are really keen to involve apprentices in their own company structure, but also to advocate to those other production companies, their tenants that are coming in, to encourage them to consider apprenticeships. And right now there's some really great pilots happening with Screen Skills and with Allspring Media, who are based in Buckinghamshire. They're a training provider working with different studios to try and develop and expand apprenticeships within production companies, because it's quite challenging to convince a production company to take on a PAYE employee. It's not the way the industry currently runs. Everyone's self-employed, everyone's freelance. But actually, my feeling is that going forward, there will be that need for the old school studio system where there's more people employed on longer term contracts, because it's just so busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about your film now. You've done a lot of short films, but you've now produced your debut feature film. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so my first feature film, which is called Little English, it's a romantic comedy set in Slough. And I was lucky enough to produce it with a kind of Slough focused or Berkshire focused team. So the writer director is PRAVESH KUMAR, who I've known for many years, and actually we've talked about this project on and off almost 20 years, I think. So it was his script and his story, and he directed it, and it's his debut feature. And then the two producers I work with, one was an alumni of our youth program. So Andrew St. Moore, who's a young man that came to us when he was like 14, wanting to be an actor, might have been 15. And he's gone sort of through different programs with us, gone off and done his own thing, got a scholarship from Pinewood Studios to go to the National Film and Television School at Beaconsfield, and has always kept in contact and came back to support me and to help the company produce this, our first feature together. Alongside Andrew, we had an alumni from our Creative Collective program, Leslie Ann McFarlane, who's an experienced producer who's been doing stuff out in the Caribbean and has come back to the UK and is re-establishing herself at the moment. So we managed to all get together and to work with a couple of funders who really supported it as an employment project and as a diversity project, because the film is a British South Asian project, and it also is embedded within a project which we called Kickstart into Film, which involved identifying talent from underrepresented backgrounds and to give them the opportunity to either have their first feature film credit or to step up a grade. So, you know, maybe they were never getting a head of department credit, or they'd never had the chance to work in a slightly different role. Then we were taking that risk on them with this debut feature, as we all were sort of doing things for the first time. And alongside that, we also used the government Kickstart programme to recruit 10 unemployed local young people and give them their first job, some of them, first ever job, and for all of them, their first job in film. And we trained them up and got them to work with us for 6 months from start to finish on the production. So it was a real project, and our really main supporters were the Rothschild Foundation, sort of based in Buckinghamshire, not far down the road, supporting that unemployed and underrepresented talent, and Unlimited, the kind of social enterprise fund, who supported us as well in terms of developing the whole programme. So we had all of that support, and then we kind of had to pick a script. We decided to do this during, you know, the end of the pandemic, and we had loads of scripts through our project submission review. And we looked at ones that could be doable within the money that we thought we could pull together. And Pravesh's, initially we were trying to shoot Pravesh's first film we've been developing with him, The Deranged Marriage, but we just couldn't get the budget for that. So we switched very quickly to Little English, which was much more manageable on the time and resources we had. And Pravesh was really flexible and worked with us, and we pulled together an amazing team, including cinematographer Lee Ulner from down the road in Windsor. Windsor lad, went to Windsor Boys, and also came through our youth program many, many years ago. We had an amazing production designer and costume designer, Andy Kumar, who's like really big in Indian media, but is also a Slough boy originally. So he was in charge of all of the art area as well. Our art director was a local woman, Mel Wignall in Slough as well. So all of these people had been in our networks and had been trying to progress their careers further, and this was the next stepping stone for them. So that's the kind of background. I think the key thing that everyone wants to know is obviously the story. We don't want to give too much away. But yeah, it is a romantic comedy. It is hopefully funny and heartwarming, but it's also got some really important social issues at the heart of it, as you'd expect for a social enterprise. So we want to challenge people a bit with the work we make, but also we want to entertain them. We don't want to kind of preach. So, you know, Pravesh's work is amazing. He runs Rifco Theatre Company, and they've been touring an amazing production at the moment called Glitterball, which you should go and see, because it's a really good example of the kind of work that Pravesh does and what you'll see in the film. And the film is about a young woman called Simi, and it's really her story. And she's a young girl that comes over from India to marry a Slough boy, and it doesn't quite pan out as she expects. She turns up, the husband is nowhere to be seen. She's kind of trapped in this house with this kind of kooky family that she really can't connect with, this very British South Asian family that really doesn't resonate with her and her experience in modern India. And she kind of is trying to work out what to do. And then along comes the younger brother of her husband to be. And there's a little bit of a connection there between the younger brother and her. The younger brother, Harry, is a bit wayward, is a bit kind of, you know, one of those who's kind of living on the edge and maybe not the best choice for a husband. So it's how their relationship develops and how they support each other to just decide, you know, where to go next in their lives and what decisions to make, whether to follow their heart, follow tradition, follow career paths, and to take that journey wherever it takes them. So it's the story of Simi and her meeting Harry, and then where they go with that, all set in Slough and all filmed entirely in Berkshire. So really proud of it.
Sounds fantastic. And I think we've got a little clip, a little snippet that we're going to show you. So just watch this now.
Where are my clothes?
ਕੀ
My clothes, they were in my room in a pile on the floor.
ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਕੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਜਾਣਾ
You'd think coming to England you'd know some English.
Ulu da pata
These were white.
ਤੇਰੇ ਕਮਰੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਬੋ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਸੀ ਨਾ ਸਾਹ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਆਉਂਦਾ
And who told you to go in there? You've ruined all my clothes. What are you even doing here? Just go back to where you came from.
ਹਾਂ give me passport ticket I go ਤੂੰ ਕੀ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਗੁੱਡ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਸਟੂਪਿਡ ਆ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਲਿਆਂਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੁਲਾਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਓਕੇ May the force be with you. Black lives matter. To be or not to be, that is the question.
What?
Bloody Shakespeare, idiot.
So was that the first firecracker moment in the film between the two characters, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, that little clip is out, you know, one of my favorite scenes, and it's where really Simi, we see, you know, the real passion of Simi and that she has got this kind of real power and confidence. And what you might see sometimes, you know, in society and perceived to be someone who's quiet or shy or from a country where they've been repressed or oppressed, actually, it's just a language barrier. And, you know, they've got all this knowledge, experience, intelligence, and just because they might have an accent or they might look slightly different or they might speak another language better than English, the perception quite often by everyone, not just Harry, this kind of love interest, but by everyone, is that they're not very bright. And so I love that moment because it just challenges that perception of people's immediate bias to thinking, oh, you know, they don't really know anything because they might have an accent or they might speak another language. So it's a little bit of romance there, but it's also that social issue that we're really keen to sort of hammer home.
Good. And where are you with this film? Is it going to be released in cinemas or is it going to be streaming?
So the biggest challenge, you know, for us is obviously it's a first feature, first director. So, you know, we actually made the film in record time. From script to screen was 11 months, which is kind of unheard of.
Feature, so, wow.
Yeah, that was, you know, in effect, in retrospect, that was the easy part. We had a fantastic team, fantastic script, amazing cast, amazing supporters, amazing funders, in-kind partners. And then you finish the film, and we were really lucky. Right back in June, we were just finishing the film. It was actually May, it might have been May actually, and two amazing British South Asian festivals approached us and said, can we see the film even though it's not finished? We really would like to consider premiering it. And we were in the unique position of having two amazing British South Asian festivals, London Indian Film Festival and Tongues on Fire, who are just amazing, saying we'd like to show it. And we hadn't finished it. So we quickly had to finish it. And unfortunately, Tongues on Fire was the sooner one. So we ended up going with London Indian Film Festival. And then London Indian Film Festival also screened it at Birmingham and Manchester Indian Film Festival. So we did Liff, Miff and Biff back in June, and we sold out pretty much everywhere, including our UK premiere, which was at the BFI South Bank. And it was the biggest sellout of that last quarter at the BFI. We had 450 seats, and we had people waiting for tickets. There was no seats spare that night at the BFI. So we had a really good UK festival premiere, and we're hoping soon to announce a US festival premiere. So we'll be going over to the States hopefully later this year. And then we're also going out to America. All sounds very glamorous, but it's very scary. And we're doing it as cheaply as we can. We're going to take the film out to the American film market, AFM, which takes place in LA in November. and we are going to screen it to international buyers, distributors, and to try and get some kind of interest in actually broader distribution, not just in the UK, but globally. That distribution thing can take up to 2-3 years, to the point where you get to somewhere like a streamer, because you do streaming last. So our hope is to get theatrical releases, you know, in different territories around the world over the next year or so, and then finally have it out on a streaming platform. But that may not be for a long time. So until then, it's checking our social media handles. Little English Film is across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and as soon as we have
the screen now.
Yeah, hopefully you can see those handles and you can follow us, because as soon as we have a festival screening, we'll announce it there. But actual wider releases is going to take quite a long time, and that was my naivety, thinking, well, we made the film in 11 months, surely I can get it out there. And yes, we did get it out there within 11 months. It was in a cinema at the BFI, but now distribution is a whole new learning curve for me and for the rest of the team. And it's great because we're all learning as well, and everyone that's on this journey with us is learning about distribution, about how you get that film to market. So it's really exciting, but still a long way to go.
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it? Is selling it and getting it out there, because that's a whole nother ball game which you all have to know about and learn about. But I'd like to move on and talk a little bit more about Parity Pictures that you formed now, because I think you said earlier that is the branch that is now focusing more on the feature length sort of productions, and what you do at Resource Productions features on the short film, and Parity is on the longer film. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey for me, because as a producer, I set up Resource in '99, and we've had loads of different legal structures and ways that we've run. Initially, it was me as a sole trader, as a videographer, video producer, and then eventually we evolved into a company. Then we became, you know, we had a charity at one point affiliated to us, and then finally we become a CIC, and that's brilliant because we are essentially here to serve the public and to reinvest in social enterprise. However, the film and TV kind of industry doesn't really understand CICs and doesn't really work for financial investment in bigger, you know, £1 million plus projects. So so completely separately to Resource, I as an individual decided to set up a new entity with just myself as director currently, and that's Parity Pictures. And my in-laws live in the Northwest. My partner is from the Northwest of England, and I'm up there a lot, and I know a lot of people up there that are also trying to get into film and TV. So I've set up Parity Pictures, again with the support of Unlimited, the Social Enterprise Fund, and I'm basing myself in Bolton, in sort of Lancashire, Greater Manchester, and we have a little office there, and I'm up there at least every couple of weeks, meeting all the local people in Bolton, lots of whom I'm already in touch with and know. And the idea is that some of the feature projects that Resource Productions doesn't have the resource to support with our public sector sort of mandate might be considered by Parity and other producers to try and take those projects forward and sort of break that barrier for those underrepresented writers, directors, producers. So I'm working closely with my two co-producers from Little English, Andrew and Leslie Ann, and they are working, you know, part-time freelance for Parity Pictures to help that transition process. And then back at the Resource Productions end, Amanda, our head of production, is viewing all of the projects that we get as Resource Productions to see if any might be suitable to pass to Andrew and Leslie Ann to explore further in a more commercial way. The hope being that if we get the commercial bit right and we generate any revenue, then that can also feed back into the Resource Productions programs in the long term. So it's really exciting new project. I'm really sort of pleased to be doing some stuff up in the Northwest as well, but still very firmly based here with Resource Productions in Slough and Berkshire.
You certainly sound as though you deserved your BAFTA award. Let's talk about that now.
Your Elevate, your BAFTA Elevate.
Yeah, BAFTA Elevate was, yeah, it was a real surprise. I always say to everyone we work with, and would reiterate to anyone who's here, is you've got to be your own champion. Don't be shy, apply for everything. I tend to apply for everything I see going, and I applied for many years to be a BAFTA member and got rejected. I think probably about 7 or 8 times I was rejected as a BAFTA member. Finally, during the kind of pandemic, I got accepted as a member. And then soon after that, I applied for a program that BAFTA runs, which is BAFTA Elevate, for underrepresented kind of breakthrough talent in different areas. And this year they focused on producers. So I applied as a producer, and along with 19 other producers from underrepresented backgrounds, I'm now on this 2-year amazing program where we get to all meet each other. So a network of peers, which I'm sure you can relate to. It can be quite isolating being a producer, running your own organization. There's now 19 other people that I can connect with and have on a WhatsApp group. And we all have similar issues. We all have our own networks, and that's been amazing. And we've only been doing it a couple of months. So BAFTA Elevate is brilliant in that it's 2 years. Most of these programs, they're sort of like 6 months, and then it's like, right, good luck, off you go. But we've got a long time and lots of support from the staff team at BAFTA who plan events, workshops, meetings, networking, to support us and guide us and help us make that transition into kind of being the best producers that we can be, making as much content as we can, really.
So what are your top 3 tips for film producers or aspiring film producers?
I think the first thing for me is always team. So, you know, like I say, it can be really isolating. I meet so many people in this industry who are freelance, who are self-employed, who are sitting in their homes or their offices or wherever it is that they work and just on their own. And I'm a social person. I can't do that. And I may think I have, you know, all the solutions at times. I'm quite bossy and I'm quite, you know, in charge of my own direction. But I absolutely couldn't do what I do without an amazing team. And people are always like, oh, I don't have money to hire people. I don't have, you know, anywhere to put them. But just finding someone that you can connect to, whether that's 1 person, 2 people. You know, my team at Resource Productions are amazing. You know, we've got an amazing team here, and each of them I've met slowly over the years through connections or workshops. And my 2 co-producers, Leslie Ann and Andrew, I wouldn't have set up Parity unless I knew I had their support and their backing. So it's really important to have a team. And the best thing I ever did was take on a board. So by becoming a CIC, I was a bit scared that I'm going to have bosses. So I've got a whole team of bosses now, some amazing people from different backgrounds, you know, an accountant, an investor, you know, a TV executive producer, and they are my board. And that team really supports me and really encourages me. So I think that is my major top tip, is find a team, find a partner, you know, just reach out to people. You may not know them. And I think that's my second tip, is reaching out, is just make that connection, you know, tap that person up on LinkedIn, contact them, meet them for coffee. If you think they're saying something on their social media or on their website that resonates with you, if they live in the local area, just contact them. Because, you know, I reconnected with a chap called Matthew Littleford, who I did work experience with when I was like 16 back in London, and I hadn't seen him for years. And I met him again at an event, and I just reached out to him, and now he's on my board of directors. And who would have known, you know, 4 or 5 years ago when we reconnected, that he would be, you know, championing what we do. So reaching out to people is the second tip. And I think the third tip is, you know, people find it a bit awkward. I don't know if it's a British thing, but I kind of don't have what I regard as shame. You know, like basically, if you want something, you got to ask for it. So, you know, promote yourself and don't be squeamish about it. People are really kind of concerned about what will people think, or, you know, oh God, this person's doing another social media post, or this person's, you know, kind of shouting about something in the press. But if you don't do it, who's going to do it? Who's going to be aware of you, your content, your projects? You know, as a producer, you have to raise awareness of you and what you're doing, because when people invest in a project, they're investing in you. And so you have to be visible. You don't have to be loud. I'm lucky in that I'm quite gobby, but you do have to be visible. And I think you do have to build a profile and be present and be open to kind of the public, as it were, so that people can find you. So those are my 3 top tips.
Yeah, all very, very good ones as well. And especially about being self-promoting. And you're right, you know, British people, well, it depends what personality type you are. I know some people find it harder than others, I guess, rather than putting it down to nationality. But you have to be your biggest champion, because you say, if you're not getting yourself out there, if you're not letting people know what you do, then people won't, you know. And networking again is tremendously important. And you know, I met you, Dom, we were connected by a chap that I connected with, which was marvelous. And I have to admit, I talk about resource productions all the time. I'm always saying, go talk to them. And, you know, sometimes you can help, sometimes you can't. But you know, I'm a big, huge supporter of what you do, because your values are very closely aligned with my own, and supporting people coming up into the industry and making people aware of the roles that are available within the film industry. It's, you know, it's something that I'm hugely passionate about. So I champion you all the time, and having good people around you is wonderful. And I'm very blessed to know people like you and wonderful Julie. I've got some wonderful people around me, and it does make a difference. So fantastic top tips there.
Well, talking about values, let's go on to the values jam.
Yeah, this is my favorite bit. I'm not going to go overboard, Julie. I promise I'm not. This is my favorite bit of the show, John, because I've got these cards, okay, and Julie can like leave the room for 5 minutes, but Julie gets ever so upset because these cards, they're very soft.
Don't get upset.
They're very soft, they're very tactile, and I have a little moment when I have my cards. They're like my cards. I love my cards. So every time I get my cards out, I have a little moment or two. So you have to excuse me, but I just love them. I love them. If you're stressed, get a pack of these cards. You just shuffle them and feel them, and it calms you right down.
You and your cards need to find a room, really.
Dreadful. I don't care. I love my cards. So there. Right. Okay. I shall spread them out, and I shall run hopefully I can hold these up to the camera properly. Hold on. I've got arthritic fingers, Dom. You'll have to excuse me. I'll try and make this look as decent as I can. Right. Okay. So if I go across, spread them out a bit more, and then you just say stop or pick a card.
Stop.
Right. What do we have? Oh, this is quite a good card. It's very funny because when we play this game with all of our guests, all the cards that our guests pick are really kind of relevant to what it's been quite freaky, hasn't it, Julie, that they've been so relevant. And this is another good one. So this is the value of excellence. And we're talking about excellence. So, and because we're creatives, I'm going to ask you the very first question, which is a very creative type question and gets you thinking about things in a bit of a different way. So, Dom, what does excellence mean to you? What does it look, feel and sound like?
Excellence to me looks like someone achieving the best that they can, and feeling that they're satisfied. So a lot of what I do is supporting other people, and as a producer you're facilitating other people, and excellence is not for me about, oh, it has to be this quality and it has to look like this and it has to feel like this, and because I think it's really subjective. I think it's seeing people be proud of themselves and think, oh gosh, I didn't know I could do that, and then that's their level of excellence. They've exceeded their own expectations and pushed themselves that little bit further. That's what it sort of looks like to me, is seeing someone when they're like, oh, a little bit shocked at their own abilities, I guess.
What does it sound like?
I think for me usually it sounds like kind of, usually it's a little bit of surprise, and you know, kind of that kind of moment of like almost the spotlight's on you and the kind of the drum roll, you know, in the background, and the kind of ta-da kind of thing. You know, that's what excellence means to me, is that moment of realization and that kind of like light bulb going on, that I can do this, I've got this. And when you see someone suddenly realize their capability, then that's yeah, a really sort of shiny sound.
Shiny sound, I like that, a shiny sound. Brilliant. How do you think more excellence could improve the world?
I think if everybody recognizes excellence when they see it, people are always really slow to sort of say to people, wow, that was really good, but with a genuineness, not a kind of like, you know, oh wow, that was really, you know, and in passing, yeah, that was really good, but just everyday activities where people have gone, you know, maybe above and beyond what they're comfortable with, or have tried something new, and it's not recognized, and so then people just stop. You know, I did get to the point, you know, resource productions, we used to try and be excellent at everything we did. So every report we wrote for a funder, every workshop we delivered, every production we made, my level of kind of quality assurance, I'd call it, rather than excellence, was really, really, really high. But actually what I found was happening is that meant that the individuals that we were working with, whether that was beneficiaries, you know, trainees or staff or freelancers, were finding it really hard to achieve that level of quality assurance, and therefore they were never feeling excellent. And if actually they could achieve half of that, they were probably doing a hell of a lot better than a lot of other organizations or a lot of other productions. And so rewarding that and recognizing that and saying, you know, excellence is relative. And, you know, yes, you could work really, really hard and achieve this, but actually if you get to here and you work blooming hard and you achieved what you needed to achieve, that should be recognized and celebrated as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really relevant point, and a very lovely note to end on as well, because we've run out of time.
Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you. Very interesting. And obviously we wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and upwards and onwards, really.
Absolutely.
Thanks
And
very
come
much.
back and talk to us soon as well, because we want to obviously keep in touch with how Little English is doing. And again, please do give them a follow. Details for Resource Productions also going across the bottom of your screen, because they are really worth reaching out to if you are wanting to learn something new and wanting to get into the film industry, not just as a young person either, is it, Dom? It's, you know, if you're older and you're thinking of perhaps switching careers, or you've got a skill set that you're thinking, oh, you know, I can do all this stuff, what can I do? Consider a career in film. You'd be surprised at what could be available to you. But on that note, we do have to say goodbye, but been absolutely delightful talking to you, and we'll see you next time for On the Couch.
Thanks very much, guys. See ya.
Bye.